It's been exactly 2 years since a devastating collision in Baltimore changed the landscape of American infrastructure forever. In the world of salvage, there's big, and then there's the keybridge recovery. This is a first-hand account on scene during one of the largest engineering recovery operations in modern history, following a night where an unthinkable tragedy struck and 6 construction workers lost their lives. In the wake of the collapse, the world's leading engineering and salvage experts were called in to solve a puzzle of unprecedented scale. This is a brief window into the many complex layers involved in the recovery. For perspective, at the time of this recording, 2 of the 6 construction workers and their vehicles were still unrecovered, resting at the bottom of the Patapsco River with a large majority of the debris. Thousands of people that relied on the keybridge every day were being rerouted through the city, creating major gridlock. And the port of Baltimore, which is a massive importer for the United States, was completely shut down. No cargo ships could arrive as the channel was now blocked, and the impact was quickly being felt across the country. When the Dali struck the keybridge, she ran aground with a massive portion of the steel structure resting on her bow, driving her further into the riverbed. Among the thousands of containers on board, 56 of them held hazardous materials like lithium-ion batteries and corrosive chemicals. 2 of those containers were crushed under the debris, posing a risk for fire and explosion. During my time on the recovery, diving operations were suspended. The razor-sharp debris was deemed too unstable, and the underwater visibility was near zero. Because of that, all the commercial divers on scene, myself included, transitioned to roles as riggers and deckhands. We were doing the everyday work, assisting with barge positioning, helping clear material barges, and equipping cranes with various types of rigging. We really did anything that we were asked to do that we are competent and certified to do. And then in the event that they would need to dive, they already had a dive team on site ready to mobilize in minutes and get in the water. The first major objective that I was a part of was to clear the path for the Dali's extraction. The plan was to back the ship out the same way she came in, but there was a major obstacle in her way. A massive section of the bridge pier was still resting on the bow, connected to the pier footing through rebar. This section needed to be cut with a diamond wire, but the cut had to be in an exact location to ensure the ship remained stable. It had to be cut precisely so that once the weight was lifted, it wouldn't affect the stability of the vessel. We knew that the section hanging off the starboard bow after the cut wouldn't clear the adjacent pier stub. To prevent that piece from catching on the pier stub, we had to first break the adjacent pier stub down. To get this done, we brought in 2 different barges, one with a crane and another with an excavator equipped with a hydraulic hammer. The process was a constant back and forth. The operator would chip away at the concrete until the hammer would eventually get fouled up and entangled in the rebar. At that point, we would fly over 2 burners to the pier, and they would cut the rebar down as low as they possibly could to clear the path for the hammer to get back to work. Once the steel was all cut out, we'd bring the excavator back in and chip until he would get entangled in another mess of rebar again. We would repeat this cycle over and over, chipping concrete, then burning steel, until the pier stub was finally brought down roughly 20 feet to the level that we needed for clearance. While a team was preparing to make the diamond wire cut, we moved our barges with the crane and the excavator back to shore. Once we were back on scene, we shifted to the other side of the Dali where crews were working to dismantle a massive section of the bridge that was sitting at a haphazard, unstable angle. There was multiple crews on either side of the wreckage, dismantling it piece by piece from the top down. But because of the sketchy geometry on this side of the collapse, we were only able to properly rig up to a handful of pieces and get them onto the material barge. For pieces that couldn't be rigged up too safely, burners had to cut them into sections and drop them into the river where they would later be picked up by a clamshell bucket. But they weren't just making any random cuts. Every single piece removed was part of a precisely engineered sequence to ensure that the debris remained stable. We had to prevent a secondary collapse that could trigger a catastrophe out on deck. At one point, another diver and I went up into the basket to assist with rigging one of the bigger sections. We were making some of the final small cuts and setting taglines and ensuring that the rigging was in the exact location. This specific piece weighed around 200,000 pounds. Once the large sections were pulled, they were slowly and carefully lowered onto the material barge and then eventually pushed over to shore, adding to the countless piles of wreckage that dominated the landscape. The yard was a massive operation in itself. Everything was being assorted and categorized based on its material makeup. You had some sections that were entirely thick girders and gusset plating, and others were giant tangled piles of rebar that had to be processed separately. Teams on shore were using massive hydraulic shears to process the debris, breaking it down into manageable loads. It was a non-stop cycle of material coming off the river, being stripped down, and then finally being hauled away by truck. Since it was early spring, mornings were still very cold, and we'd often arrive to find the river buried in a thick, heavy fog. On days like this, the bridge wasn't even visible from shore, and you couldn't even see halfway across the Patapsco. This turned the site into a navigation puzzle. With so many different vessels, tugs, barges, and cranes packed into one tight area, boat captains had to be on high alert, sometimes navigating by radar and slow bell to prevent a secondary collision in the limited visibility. As the wreckage of the Key Bridge would finally fade into view through the mist, the atmosphere felt different. The fog just seemed to hang over the steel, giving the entire scene a heavy, eerie silence that reminded you exactly where you were. Heading back over to the main collision site, we found that the pier lying on the starboard bow had been successfully cut with a diamond wire. Now that everything on the starboard bow was clear, there were crews setting explosives to remove the massive truss that was lying on the Dali's port bow. But before those charges would go off, we had some heavy lifting to do. Crews were again making precision cuts to free up one of the single biggest pieces during the whole operation. Unlike the other side where we were just at, this part of the bridge landed pretty level, which allowed for a much more even and stable lift. I don't recall the exact weight of this section, but I believe it was right over about 500,000 pounds. Just remember, a single corner of these trusses weighs over 80,000 pounds. While we were here, we were doing things like helping get the barges in position and setting taglines for the pull. There wasn't another crane even close to making this lift, none other than the Chesapeake 1000, with a max capacity of over 1,000 tons. It's honestly hard to wrap your head around how truly heavy this piece was, and since it was so heavy, it was an extremely slow process. The Chesapeake 1000 slowly came tight on it, and then inch by inch, slowly rigged it up and pulled it off of the rest of the debris. After Chessie made this massive lift, we headed back to shore, watched her bring it in, so that we could assist with docking the barges, so again everything could be broken down and hauled off. At this point, the only thing pinning the Dali was the truss on her port bow. Since there was no safe way to cut it, it had to be done with controlled explosives. Once that truss was finally clear, we were able to safely back the Dali out and remove her from the scene for good. Now that the investigation is public, the world finally knows what happened. It was found out that a simple wiring error caused the Dali to black out and lose power, which meant she lost steering and crashed into the Key Bridge. It's a heavy reminder how a small thing matters. But as we look towards the future, the plans for the new bridge are already taking shape. It's going to be a massive cable-stay bridge design, standing as a symbol of how this city and the crews who work the waters can rebuild even stronger and bigger than before.